Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre, he's Chris, and we're here to break down wide receiver matchups for week 15. Let's start by getting into the wide receivers that are absolute no-brainers, must start regardless of matchup. And we'll start, of course, with Cooper Kupp. Then we got Tyreek Hill, Deontay Johnson, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, Davante Adams, Justin Jefferson, and Keenan Allen, who should be back for week 15. All right, now we're going to get through as many of the other wide receivers as possible, see who is fantasy relevant in week 15. All right, speaking of the Chargers, let's start talking about Mike Williams going against the Chiefs. Now, it could be somewhat dependent on Allen playing, but I think Williams has shown that he can thrive regardless. So how do you feel about his production against this improving Chiefs defense?
Yeah, not a must start. I mean, last week was it, right? And he still wasn't really what you would consider a must start. He was okay, but not a must start. So I'm going to say he's a good start, but not a must start.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he still has, what it takes. He can make that big play downfield, but it's not really about Allen. It's about the Chiefs. Man, this defense has looked really good the last few weeks, and their cornerbacks are some of the highest rated according to PFF. So I'm going to say you should probably sit him in this game. All right, now moving on to the Saturday games. That's right, Saturday NFL is back, and we got the Browns facing the Raiders. Look, to me, Hunter Renfrow is kind of an every week must start. Been saying that for weeks, and he has not proven me wrong. I'm going to say yes, you got to keep Hunter Renfrow in your lineup.
Yeah, you got to keep rolling with Hunter Renfrow, especially if Darren Waller misses again. But even if Waller plays, you got to start him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the security blanket there for Derek Carr. All right, now the Colts are going to face the Patriots. It's definitely a tough matchup. So Michael Pittman, we know, is the alpha there in Indy. Can you start him against that tough Patriots defense?
I mean, I think you kind of have to. I'm not going to call him a must start because it is a tough matchup, but he's too good to sit over most guys. So a good start, but not a must start.
I want to say that, but honestly, I don't feel you have to start him because J.C. Jackson is one of the top corners in the game, and Pittman is a guy, honestly, hasn't gotten enough targets to become a reliable every week must start. He could always have a blow-up game. I don't think this is it. So I'm going to say that you can sit Michael Pittman this week. Going to say it's a good bet. You could probably sit Julio Jones, but just for fun, let's throw it out there. Going against Pittsburgh, he's the wide receiver one, right, for Tennessee, but I don't think you want to start him.
No, this is a desperation start only in a great matchup against the Steelers, but wouldn't feel great about it in my lineup, no.
Now, how far the mighty have fallen. All right, now on the other side, Chase Claypool, much more interesting start there. Tennessee, we know, gives up a lot of points to wide receivers. Is Claypool going to be celebrating first downs all game long?
I think he might. I'm not going to say must start because we know Claypool is so boom or bust, but this could be another week where he booms, so I'm going to say good start this week.
Yeah, I think very good start. I mean, the matchup was great against Minnesota. It's just as good against Tennessee. Don't think there's going to be nearly as many points scored, but I think he's a very good start. All right, and then Carolina faces Buffalo. That's not a good matchup at all for any wide receiver or quarterback. Depending on who the quarterback is, we don't know in Carolina these days, but DJ Moore, can you roll him out against Buffalo?
No, I think DJ Moore has to be a must sit. I mean, maybe it'll be Cam Newton, maybe it'll be PJ Walker, maybe they'll switch series. Who knows what's going on in Carolina? I got to sit DJ Moore.
Yeah, and don't forget, Moore did come out of the game briefly with a right knee injury. Day to day, I think he's going to play. That's not the concern, but Buffalo's defense and not having a consistent quarterback play, that's a concern. So you got to sit DJ Moore this week. Now on the other side here, we know Diggs is a must start. What about Cole Beasley? Saw an uptick in targets because Emmanuel Sanders did suffer a knee injury. Doesn't look like he's going to play. So can you start Beasley?
Yeah, I think he's an okay start. Like you said, without Sanders there, it does seem like he's getting more targets. So he's got a decent floor. He's an okay start.
Yeah, okay, because of the target share. But again, Carolina actually has a pretty good defense against wide receivers. One of the top 5 in terms of limiting fantasy points. So Beasley's he's okay in full PPR if you need him. Gabriel Davis, kind of different. He could get a touchdown and make some big chunk of yardage, but not going to get a ton of receptions. Can you trust him in fantasy?
He's a desperation, upside kind of play for your flex or wide receiver 4. So not really, but if you're trying to hit a home run, he can do it.
That's it. He's a lotto ticket. Dark horse if you need one, but probably shouldn't be starting him. All right, now Terry McLaurin did leave with a concussion. Not sure what his status is going to be for week 15. It'll be day to day. So if Terry is cleared and does play against Philadelphia, would you put him in your lineup?
I think I'm going to have to say no. I mean, Heineke's banged up and he's terrible. Darius Slay shutting down outside receivers. I know he can go off at any time, but man, in my fantasy playoffs, I don't know if I could risk it. So I'm going to say no.
You said it all right there. So many red flags. I mean, Heineke looked terrible, and he's hurt too. So it could be Kyle Allen. There's just too much going against him. Even if he does play, it's not going to happen. He's been so inconsistent this year. Sit Terry McLaurin for this week. Now, Devontae Smith on the other side, coming off a bye. Jalen Hurts is the guy. No, it's not Gardner Minshew. So going against Washington, they've been better on defense, but how do you feel about Devontae Smith?
I think he's an okay start. I mean, look, they weren't that good against the Cowboys receivers. I mean, yeah, they shut down Dak because of the turnovers, but they gave up a lot of yards to those Cowboys wide receivers. So I think there's opportunity here for Smith. Not a must start, but an okay start.
Yeah, not looking as good as it did early in the season going against Washington, but I think you can roll him out kind of a low-end wide receiver 3. So he's okay. All right, Houston, Jacksonville, the matchup we've all been waiting for between 2-win teams. Brandon Cooks had a pretty decent game last week, so going against Jags, will he do even better?
I mean, it's Jacksonville. I'm not going to call Brandon Cooks a must start because you never know with this guy, but it's Jacksonville. I'd have a hard time benching him, so I'm going to say a good start.
Yeah, I called Cooks a bust last week, and he really didn't. He had a pretty good game. Didn't score, which I called, but he did definitely help your fantasy team. Against Jacksonville, I think you can go ahead and roll him out. And Jacksonville, which receivers are you starting? The answer is none of the above. So let's just move on to the next matchup, and that is going to be the Cowboys against the Giants. Let's start with Amari Cooper going against the G-Men.
Yeah, must start. This is not a good defense, not a good secondary. Cooper looked great, fully over COVID, full complement of snaps, must start.
Yeah, nice and rested, so that helps. I think Cooper, definitely a strong start, so go ahead and put him in your lineup. What about Michael Gallup, the third of the trio there? Would you start him also?
I would. I don't think he's a must start, but I think he's a solid wide receiver 3 type of start because there's so much opportunity in this offense. So, solid start.
I'm right with you. He's definitely a solid start if you need him. All right, now DeAndre Hopkins. He's moved out of the every week no-brain must-start category, if you noticed. A lot of injuries and inconsistency this season, but he gets Detroit. I think it's safe to say we can put a green check mark up there for him.
Yeah, must start this week, no doubt about it.
All right, now on the other side, Amon-Ra St. Brown has become the clear number 1 receiver. Back-to-back weeks, over 10 targets. What about him against Arizona?
Definitely not a must start. I'm probably never going to recommend a Lions wide receiver as a must start, but I think he's a solid start if you need him.
Yeah, we've been fooled into thinking the Lions were going to produce consistent fantasy value and been let down, but I'm going to say solid start if you do need somebody who doesn't have to score a touchdown to give you value. All right, my Dolphins are going to take on the Jets. Good for us. Now let's start with the other side. Jamison Crowder did let me down last week. Can he correct things going against Miami?
I mean, he did run the most routes of any wide receiver, and it is Miami, so definitely not a must start. I'm going to say an okay desperation type of start.
I think he's still okay, keeping the faith there because, again, so many injuries there. Corey Davis out, Elijah Moore out. He's a slot receiver, and that means he won't get too much Xavier Howard. I think he's a decent start this week. And on the other side there, I really want to put Jalen Waddle in the absolute must-start category, but I think you've got to roll with him against the Jets.
Oh, yeah, against the Jets, definite must start.
Devontae Parker, I kind of think you can too.
I'm not going to call Parker a must start, but I'm going to call him a good start.
All right, now the Bengals here. Again, 2 guys who you think are almost must starts, but do you feel that way? Jamar Chase, let's start with him. This week going against Denver, a pretty tough defense.
Jamar Chase is what Jamar Chase is, right? He can catch 2 huge touchdowns like we saw, or he can do nothing. He was doing nothing in that game prior to those touchdowns. So an okay start. I'm not going to say a must start, but an okay start. Tons of upside. Don't love the matchup, but I think you got to start him.
Yeah, and a lot of that production, especially from Burrow, came late when they were trying to come back. So you never know with him, but I feel pretty good about him, I think. So I say you can roll him out. I mean, there's so much upside, you can't keep it on your bench. So I'll say yes to Chase. And then Higgins is getting so much volume in terms of pass attempts. I think you got to start Higgins.
Yeah, I think you got to start Higgins. He's a little safer than Chase. So, yeah, definitely got to start Higgins.
All right, Russell Gage is the wide receiver 1 in Atlanta going against the Niners, which would be a tough matchup, but they've had some injuries in the secondary. Do you keep rolling with Gage, who's been pretty good lately?
Yeah, definitely not a must start, but I think he's an okay start. I do worry if the 49ers secondary does get healthy this week, which is possible. That will definitely put a dent in him, but a good start, not a must start.
Yeah, good start. Pretty solid. Probably not going to score, but he'll still get you some points. Brandon Ayuk there against the Falcons. Great matchup. I say yes. Do you agree?
Yeah, it looks like he's a must start. Debo, for some reason, is pretty much just a running back now, so must start for Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, we'll see if that changes. If Mitchell comes back, that might change Debo's role, but it's still a great matchup for Ayuk. Let's just get this out of the way with, rip the Band-Aid off. DK Metcalf against the Rams. I mean, we just can't, right? I can't do this anymore.
No, I mean, the only chance for DK is that Ramsey isn't cleared from COVID next week, and even then, it's risky, so must sit for me.
Sadly, I must concur. You can't play DK Metcalf at this point. Now, Tyler Lockett, on the other hand, I think you almost have to play him.
Yeah, he looks like it every week. Must start. Russ loves him from Tyler Lockett right now, so must start.
Van Jefferson, a little more iffy there. I'm going to say maybe only if you really need him.
Yeah, desperation, flex play with upside.
All right, let's keep rolling here with a few more. Marquise Hollywood Brown against the Packers.
I'm going to say must sit. That Packers secondary is good. I know they give up some big plays, but those were yards after the catch. We don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to play. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. I'm going to say must sit.
Yeah, he just hasn't been the same, but that connection between him and Lamar, it just hasn't been there lately. And notice that Tyler Huntley, if he does play, he was targeting Rashad Bateman a ton last week. So, yeah, I don't think you want to trust Hollywood Brown this week in the playoffs. You probably want to trust Chris Godwin. Definitely a good start there. I think he's almost a no-brainer. You've got to start him, regardless of matchup, which happens to be the Saints.
Yeah, must start this week for sure.
What about Mike Evans, who doesn't always thrive against the Saints?
I'm going to say must sit. He struggles against Marshawn Lattimore. I know that when they played earlier in the season, he caught that one relatively long touchdown to save his day. But outside of that, he's not going to do anything. Lattimore gets up for this matchup for some reason. I'm going to say must sit.
Yeah, Evans can always get a touchdown in any given matchup. Did so last week too against Buffalo. So I'll say he's a solid, but not must start this week. And then on Monday night, we're going to have the Vikings and the Bears, something the schedule makers would like to have back. If Adam Thielen does come back, do you automatically plug him back in your lineup?
I mean, you got to. It's the Bears. They're terrible against wide receivers. Absolute must start.
Yeah, he's a touchdown machine, so if he's good to go, you've got to assume they're going to target him enough, so definitely have to start him if he plays. What does that mean for KJ Osborne, who looked good, but if Thielen plays, do you play Osborne?
I think you can still play him as an upside flex play. Obviously, if Thielen's out, then he's a definite start. But if Thielen plays, I like him as a potential upside flex play.
Agree with you there. Osborne is a possibility, even if Thielen does come back. And then the Bears, we're not even going to speak of Allen Robinson because it's not worth speaking of. Darnell Mooney against that terrible Minnesota defense that has been giving up the most fancy points to wide receivers. Any hope for Mooney?
I mean, it's a great matchup. I can't ever call Mooney a must start, especially with Fields, who throws it to everybody, it seems like. So good start, but not a must start.
Yeah, that's the thing. Last week it was long touchdowns to Jakeem Grant and Damiere Byrd. So yeah, you can't call Mooney a must start. I think he's okay, wide receiver with some upside, but hopefully he can do better. All right, that does it for week 15. Guys, if you're in the playoffs, we wish you the best of luck. We're here to help you. Join our Discord, and there's a lot of other ways we can help. Just look at the description below for more information there.